Hello and welcome or welcome back to my channel, International Yankee English, and welcome to this edition of Study Saturday. Today we are going to talk about active voice versus passive voice. If that sounds interesting to you, stay tuned. Okay, I want to start off by saying three things. Number one, welcome back to my office, and I hope you guys enjoyed the interesting video we had last week, the collaboration. If you haven't checked it out, please do. I had 8 wonderful YouTubers collabing with me, and it was fantastic. So go back and check that. The link will be in the description box. And the week before that, I had talked about US dialects, and I feel like in the summer months, I've kind of done more of fun topics and not done as much of the nitty-gritty. So today we're going to go back to grammar or style and really look at language when we talk about the active voice versus the passive voice. So that is what we're going to do today in a short, comprehensive way. I want to make 2 more announcements before we begin. Please make sure on the second announcement, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. And the third one is I want to say thank you to everyone. The first live lesson is going on tonight. When I'm filming this, I'm filming it before Saturday. Zoom lesson, conversation class for B1 plus speakers. And I think that I ended up capping it at around 12 students who signed up. I felt that that was a good number. And we have our conversation class tonight. I can't wait. And I'll put like something here about how it went. I'm planning on doing that once a month approximately. So if you're interested, check in the description box. I have my email. You can send me an email if you're interested in joining the next one. Or if you want to join the private community, I always do updates there on Facebook in the private group. And you do have to be a Facebook group member anyway in order to join the free lessons, and you have to be subscribed here on YouTube as well. And I will do those monthly, and I am so excited about that. But let's get into today's video now. Enough chat. What is the active voice versus the passive voice? The active voice is when you have a sentence that has a subject or a person and they're doing something. So they are acting upon a verb. And then a passive sentence, or using the passive voice, is when the subject or the person is the recipient, the person who receives the action. So they receive that action that the verb gives rather than giving the action. I will talk about it in a little bit more detail in case that's confusing. Often academic English teachers, so at universities, they will say, use the passive in your papers. And I take issue with that for a couple of reasons. The reason that they suggest that often, not all of them, but often you will hear that in academic writing, it is better to use the passive voice because the passive voice is neutral. And if you've watched my videos about academic writing, I'll put in the cards up here my top 5 tips for academic writing. You do not want to speak in the first person. That means using I or we. You want to make it as neutral or objective as possible. So by using the passive voice, you can achieve that much more easily. And it keeps the author kind of out of the research or the argument that is being made in the writing. And so that is why many teachers prefer that students use the passive voice, because it's much easier to do that when you use the passive voice. But there are other types of writing, like copywriting or content writing or advertising, where the active voice is much more preferred because you want something action, you want a call to action, and that's much more effective for those things. So it is important to understand what kind of writing you're doing, what is your purpose, what is your goal, and to know kind of when and how to use both the passive voice and when to use and how to use the active voice. So let's take a look. I'm going to quote an article by Grammarly. In English grammar, verbs have 5 properties: voice, mood, tense, person, and number. Here we are concerned with voice. The 2 grammatical voices are active and passive. So we're talking about voice here, and let's look first at active voice. When you have a sentence in the active voice, you want to follow the word structure, the word order, subject, verb, object. So for example, Ashley taught the English lesson. Ashley taught the English lesson. Here in this sentence, Ashley is a subject, person, subject, and then taught, the simple past of teach, which is an irregular verb, so it's not teached, but taught. That is the verb, the action, and then lesson is the object, okay? And then we have English, which is describing the object, the lesson. So you have subject, verb, object, and sometimes some other words are in there as well, but this order of subject and then a verb and then an object, regardless of what comes in between, that should be followed in an active voice sentence. So Ashley is the subject, taught is the verb, and lesson is the object, right? So the subject is doing, teaching, the object, the lesson. Now let's look at passive. When we consider the passive voice, the subject or the person is acted upon by the verb. Okay, for example, the previous active sentence, it could be changed to be the English lesson was taught by Ashley. Okay, the English lesson was taught by Ashley instead of Ashley taught the English lesson. The passive always uses some form of the infinitive of to be. So in this sentence, it was. And then the verb in the sentence will be a past participle. So in this sentence, taught. And then usually, most cases, a preposition is needed as well. In this sentence, we had by. So it depends on the context of the sentence and what the meaning of the sentence is, which preposition you would be using. The active voice generally tends to be stronger and clearer, whereas the passive voice is more subtle and it's also more objective, more neutral. So we have the action kind of put into the spotlight with passive, and then we have the doer or the person, the subject, in the spotlight with active voice. So it really depends on what your intention is, your purpose with your sentence, whether you want to use the active or the passive. Okay guys, so it's exercise time. As some of you may or may not know, I wrote a grammar exercise book for a large publisher last year in 2019. Affiliate links to the book in the description box. You can also contact me if you live in Europe. I can send you the book as well directly and sell it to you that way. But I digress. So in that book, there are many different exercises on many topics. Passive and active happens to be one of them. And I am not breaking any laws. I am well below the 10% copyright law by sharing. I'm going to share 2 of the exercises, one kind of simpler one and then one more advanced, because active and passive is not one set level on the Common European Framework reference. You can have some exercises with active and passive at the A2 level, and you can have some at the C2 level. So I'm giving you 2 different level exercises here to have a look at and to practice. Now I will upload the answers to these exercises in the private Facebook group, so if you want to have a look at the answers, you can go there. And then also if you want me to give you some extra feedback on the exercises, then you can post your answers there in that group, and then I will give you my feedback. It's a nice little community, so you might get some more, you might start a discussion, and there might be some back and forth and some nice conversation started by posting in there. If you just want me to check one sentence that you feel a little unsure about, then you can go ahead in the comments and post it there. So I'm going to go ahead and post first the first exercise. So go ahead and read through numbers 1 through 10. You can pause the video or even take a screenshot of the video if you need to zoom in a little bit closer and decide whether the sentences are in the active voice or the passive voice. As you see in the example, the first one is in the active voice. So go ahead and press pause and do this exercise. I'm going to post the answers in my private Facebook group. If you need the link, it's there in the description box. And now we will do the more difficult exercise where you have to do more writing yourself. Let's have a look. Okay, so for this exercise, you should read numbers 1 through 8. Those are sentences in the active voice, and then you should switch them into the passive voice, as you can see has been done for number 1. Again, I'm going to keep this quite short, so please press pause, and if you need to zoom in a little bit further, you can take a screenshot and then zoom in that way. Good luck! Okay guys, so the answers to these again will be posted in the Facebook group. If you want individual feedback or you have questions about your sentences, whether they were right or wrong, or you want to know why something is that way, go ahead and join the Facebook group and ask in there. If you have just one sentence you want me to check, you can put it in the comments below. Otherwise, bring it to the group, please. And I hope this has been useful. This is, I think, a little longer than I intended, but you don't want to rush important topics like active versus passive voice. And I hope you enjoyed this return to grammar. And thank you guys for watching. I will see you next week for Study Saturday. Bye. And then now we will do the more. Okay, so I hope that was useful for you guys. Again, the answers, instead of drawing out this video, I'm going to post the answers in my private Facebook group. There's